Thank you very much for leading us all into the service. And Judy and Sharon, unplanned, gave you a clue about what we're acknowledging in our creation story today. Any guesses?
Come on up to the house.
Well, it's about creation, and it ties into an earlier event this week.
Open house?
Well, we had that beautiful big harvest moon, or that super moon this past week, and in the first line of their song, it was talking about the moon. And for 3 days, it appeared so full, and was more radiant and larger than usual.
And bright.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And to add to that event, there was a partial lunar eclipse, though many of you might not have realized it, because you were likely in bed. I was not, so I saw it. Anybody remember the book Good Night Moon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Good Night Moon.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a toss-up, whether it was the moon or God that we were first introduced to as small children. Both have been part of our lives, though, as we have matured. We've watched the moon change during the months as it progressed across the sky. This has also happened as our ideas about God have changed also over time. Many of us have not realized that we have only seen really one side of the moon, and a little bit, Ian says. When we look up at it, we have to imagine what the other side looks like. And we will also never be able to discern all there is to know about God until we meet him or her or it. The moon also has no glow of its own. It shines only by the reflected glow from the sun. And this too is how God often becomes known to us, through the reflected actions of God's people. So things to think about on this third Sunday celebrating creation. But let's first sing. We come here today not because we are clever,
but because God welcomes the slow learners.
We come here not because we are wise,
but because God loves us despite our folly.
We come knowing that the greatest persons will be found among those who humbly serve like Jesus did. And the brightest ideas and the deepest truth will come from those who see themselves as little children in Christ's school.
Lord, open up our minds and our hearts, and enable our lives to declare your grace.
And let us sing and sing.
Reason why you came, and the reason
Creator God, your word speaks about life and sustenance of all that exists. Jesus, the life you give, is about recreation and rebirth of all that is broken and worn. Holy Spirit, you stir our souls, hopefully inspiring us towards creativity, compassion, joy, and being community in needy times. So life-giving, life-restoring, and life-fulfilling Trinity, may our whole lives be worship beginning today. In all things, may we seek to connect with and to reflect your love and your hope. To these, please, we add the words that Jesus gave us in song. Sad-looking guy, Jeremiah. A little passage from Jeremiah 11, 3 verses, 18 to 20. Because the Lord revealed their plot to me, I knew it, for at that time he showed me what they were doing. I had been like a gentle lamb led to the slaughter. I did not realize that they had plotted against me, saying, let us destroy the tree and its fruit. Let us cut him off from the land of the living, that his name be remembered no more. But you, Lord Almighty, who judge righteously and test the heart and the mind, let me see your vengeance on them, for to you I have committed my cause. Now this was in the lectionary, and I sort of wondered what I could do with it. Here poor Jeremiah was feeling very threatened. After all, his warnings were not appreciated by many. And here he talks about being warned by God that some evil deed doers are planning to do something awful to him. We don't know what they were, but they do sound rather deadly, so we can understand his fears. I'd like to say it has just been this past week, but it's more like this past year that so many others have feared for their lives, especially the innocent. Many of those, the pagers, exploding pagers, never saw it coming. They were just going about their day. Who among us even thought that this was possible? That so many innocent people could suffer harm just to get to a few bad ones. Why weren't they warned or protected like Jeremiah? Person dies in a car accident, and just a moment before, they were making plans for the next week with excitement. Why did they lose their lives? Because of someone else's, perhaps, recklessness. How do we get warnings, made aware of the dangers at hand? Do we listen? Keep aware of what's going on around us? The dangers, things that just don't seem quite right, are we aware of them? Do we keep them on our radar? Do we ever equate them with the still small voice of God trying to get our attention? I struggled with this passage. The still small voice of God. When do we hear it? Do we hear it when we need it? Just some thoughts to ponder on. Let us ponder as we sing. You gonna join us?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, great, you were, oh, come on, you're filming. It means I don't have your attention.
Just at that moment.
Okay. I have two pictures here for Mark 9, verses 30 to 37. And this is the much more traditional one to go with this. Christ there, it's not quite clear, but Christ is holding a child. And it's all very nice. And then I have this one. This is a little more jarring. One we don't really want to always agree with. Bring these children unto me. Do we want them here? Do we want them in our country, in our community? So, question I have for you. What class or subject did you learn a lot in when you were at school? What did the teacher of that class do to help you learn that stood out for you? Did you have to sit still? Or were there opportunities to move around in your class?
I was taught manners.
Was your room noisy or quiet?
Right.
Were the ideas that were being taught boring or challenging?
Challenging.
Did the teacher use good examples? One you understood, or was the facts just fed to you? I think I got that. Sean, he was a history teacher, a friend of mine. He made his history classes come so alive. he would, around Remembrance Day, he would dress up in an old greatcoat with a helmet on and a gun, and he would recite war poetry and speeches. He'd do speeches about the war. And he made it all become alive for his class. They would make maps, and they would dye the paper. They would dye the paper that they used with tea, and then they would burn the edges to make them look old. And oh, he was just so creative, so creative. Kids loved his class. They gravitated to him. And I must admit, I had no teachers like that. And I don't know, we have a lot of teachers here, and I don't know how you taught. But yeah, he made it come alive. It was just, yeah, it's history in action. In our reading today, the disciples just don't get Jesus when he was teaching at first. He tries to help them by teaching them, though, in several different ways. He talks with them while they walk, and then when they retreat to a quiet house, because it's there that he challenged them again, but now with different ideas, and he shows them an example from their own lives. Let us listen to this teacher who has never given up teaching his followers through the years. Leaving that region, they traveled through Galilee. Jesus didn't want anyone to know he was there, for he wanted to spend more time with his disciples and teach them. And he said to them,
"The Son of Man is going to be betrayed into the hands of his enemies. He will be killed. But 3 days later, he will rise from the dead."
They didn't understand what he was saying, however, and they were afraid to ask him what he meant. After they arrived at Capernaum and settled in a house, Jesus asked his disciples,
"What were you discussing out on the road?"
but they didn't answer, because they were arguing about which one of them was the greatest. And he sat down and he called the 12 disciples over to him and said,
"Whoever wants to be first must take last place and be the servant of everyone else."
Then he put a little child among them. Taking the child in his arms, he said to them,
"Anyone who welcomes a little child like this on my behalf welcomes me. And anyone who welcomes me welcomes not only me, but also my Father who sent me."
Blessed are those who have and do listen with open minds and hearts to Christ's teachings. We've all been to a piano recital at one time or another. It's good just to sit back, let go of our cares and our worries, at least for an hour or so, and just listen to the notes flow over you. They can take you to another place, quite different from the one that makes demands of you, and often has a harshness about it that's jarring to the soul. The student pianist will have numerous recitals to perform at. We might hear the predictable classics adequately, sometimes brilliantly played. These performances are a necessary part on the way to getting their certificates, maybe even a degree in music. One can't be shy about performing for others. So if we have a fondness for music, we'll likely have a good and relaxing time that will nurture our souls, and all our ponderous worries and concerns can be washed away, even if just for a while. We'll sit there and admire the pianist, their poise, their ability to remember all those notes and hit the right key, and all their overall giftedness. And then admission time comes. We all trot out to the foyer to stretch our legs, have some refreshments. It should be a lighthearted time just to chat and relax, but there are those few that can't do that. Instead, they participate in a vigorous dissection of the performance, ruining the pleasure of others in their company who were enjoying it. Nothing escapes their notice. The fingering, the pedaling, the phrasing, the posture, the stage presence, the dress even chosen for this more or less professional event. All is held up for belittling criticism. and they're cheerfully absorbed in their demolition, and they sound so sure of themselves. If they were offered a place at the keyboard, we might think that they could actually do it better. We might even be a little embarrassed thinking that we were naive to enjoy the concert up to this point, and thankful that we didn't say anything that would give our uncritical enthusiasm away. But we probably aren't alone. At this type of event, there is likely to be a music teacher or a professor or two in the audience. They might stand at the periphery of this group, listening for a while to their increasingly intense and petty disparaging pronouncements. And then when it's just time to return to their seats, he or she would feel moved to say, "But there's so much to hear." And what would these critics do but fall silent in the face of those who actually know what they're talking about? What would they say? Even if it was a not very inspiring performance, there is still lots to hear. There's Brahms and Beethoven and Mozart. They refuse to be overshadowed by a few misplaced notes or improper phrasing. If that happened to us when we were critical, could we ever forget this mild rebuke? There's such a fine line between mindless acceptance of anything that comes our way, whether it's music, whether it's food, or the latest hit movie, and the urge to dissect it. It can be fun to distance ourselves from all sorts of experiences by coolly identifying the flaws and the shortcomings. I've done it, you've probably done it. I'm sure that the professor heard every imperfection, but after he would have sat down with that student and shown them ways to improve their performance, and he or she would have done it with care, after complimenting them first, always complimenting them first, out of love for the student who's promised he or she recognized, and even more out of love for just the music itself. It is good to have high standards of taste and achievement. God deserves our best efforts, and our best efforts deserve to be honored. There's a great humility and simplicity in any offering of our best. There's also great wisdom in discriminating between the best and second rate. A touch of humility and simplicity can be a great help here too. We can miss hearing the music if we let ourselves be distracted by small things. If we let ourselves become jaded or hypercritical, we can lose the gift of the joy and the wonder that was played, let's say, or prayed for at our baptisms. I found this baptism prayer. I've never used it, but it's a good one, and I'll use it next time. Sustain them, God, in your Holy Spirit. Give them an inquiring mind, a discerning heart, let courage to will and to persevere, a spirit to know and love, and the gift of joy and wonder in all your works. It's a great prayer, isn't it? It takes in all the hopes and dreams we could possibly want for this child, this baby. Perhaps we should repeat it more frequently on behalf of all of us sophisticated folks with high standards, and not just invoke this great gift for new Christians. Maybe that's the reason for promoting adult baptism, because we actually didn't hear it the first time. The young children and the babies we know hopefully still haven't lost this gift of wonder and joy in what surrounds them, all from the hand of God. They still find bugs fascinating, are able to marvel at the incredible sweetness of a ripe peach, giggle uncontrollably at something we question as being funny at all. We don't think it's funny. They have the ability to experience and enjoy the wonder and the newness of everything God has blessed them with. They still have the gift they were given when they were born. Perhaps we should pray often that they never lose it, because reality says, just looking at ourselves, that they will. The same reading as Mark, but in the Gospel of Matthew, gets even more to the point. Jesus tells his friends that unless they change and become like children, they will never, ever enter the kingdom of heaven. For this author, it isn't just a case of welcoming him. There's so many signs of God all around us. There's so much to see, so much to hear. We adults need to reach down deep within us for that child that's in all of us so that we won't lose or bury this ability. And perhaps it would be to our advantage to surround ourselves with children, at least the echoes of children. That way we can retain our once held childlike innocence and help these young ones to retain theirs, and not become jaded like some of us have. I suppose a confession time is good for us all. I went to a quilt show a few years ago, and I know I crossed that fine line between critical demolition of some of those quilts and an artistic critique in the nicest way. Just like the music performer, I noted the unevenness of the stitches, their length, what I thought were gaudy color combinations, and the fact that their points didn't come together and their bagging was puffy. What I failed to appreciate, that I would have if I'd been a kid, was the really, really neat quilt of a dragon with orange fire coming out of its mouth. Any boy would have ignored any inaccuracies and felt that it was an adventure to sleep under it. Any girl would have loved the colors of purple and orange arranged in a puffy design of a fairy tale castle. What I ignored were the hours of work that had given the seamstress the opportunity to better her skills from her last quilt. What I thought was that I could quilt it better, arrange a better palette of colors, smooth out the wrinkles. Anybody here want to confess that they've done that? Life lived in faith with a good dash of humility is about appreciating what we have, can hear, see, and do, and enjoy them. It's not about being critical of what's not there or is imperfect. It's about being able to see past the imperfections, ours included, past the places where we aren't yet fully grown, to the places where we can still gift someone with the talents that we're given and expect nothing in return. Like a child, it may be the ability to laugh at the ridiculous, to appreciate a hymn sung even off key, to see past a mistake in someone's needlework, to still enjoy a dinner out even though the waitress is slow and the dinner isn't quite gourmet food. We need to look to our children for the ability to live for and in the moment just for the sheer joy of it, uncritical, accepting, and not for what we can get, and then only in its perfect state. The disciples wanted to be rated according to their greatness. How often is that what we want, crave even need to validate our sense of worth in our own eyes? And when do we pass those attitudes on to our children and grandchildren, stealing their innocent wonder and generous natures from them? Let us hope that this is a place where that can never happen. But instead, we welcome them into our lives and into this place of gathering, as it says very clearly outside our church, because we want them to be our teachers too, of innocence and humility and all that is childlike and good. Let us sing.
Like a child, we may find
be Christ Church. We are called to love one another. We're called to reach out in faith. So may we respond to that call as we give our gifts to the work of the church here and elsewhere. Let us gather up what we've got to share. It takes a lot of courage to follow the way, gracious God. We trust in our friends gathered here, and we trust in you to guide us.
May these offerings be tokens of our thanks for all you do for us, as we seek to follow your path of decency and justice for all. Amen.
It's warm up.
What did you do? Did you do anything wrong? That's what I know of. Do you want to confess now? It's coming up, it seems to be a busy time. We're having a bit of a discussion on Bible study on Tuesday, but then there's the exercise class on Tuesday. So we need to think about that and discuss that after the service. Lord's Kitchen next Friday over at Holy Trinity. Next Saturday and Sunday, we should be wearing our orange shirts. It's and then we're supposed to on the 30th. What's the 30th? Is that Monday?
Yes.
Okay, we're supposed to eat the orange sprinkled donuts at Tim Hortons, and all the money from the donuts will go towards Indigenous charities. So whether you like the donut or not, get it, eat it. Or at least give it to somebody else. The community choir starts next Thursday at 7 here at the church to register, and then the actual rehearsal will start at 7:30. Okay, so did anybody else see this in the newspaper? It's a public survey, retail business holiday exemption bylaw amendment. The city of Temiskaming Shores is seeking feedback on a proposal amendment which regulates the opening of retail businesses on certain holidays. The bylaw currently allows retail businesses to open on Victoria Day, Canada Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving Day. The proposed bylaw amendment could add one or more following holidays as permitted days for retail businesses to remain open to support tourism in New Liskeard. Tourism in New Liskeard. And these days that could possibly be included are New Year's Day, Family Day, Good Friday, Easter Sunday, and Christmas Day. To promote tourism. I don't know how you can celebrate tourism at Canadian Tire and Walmart on Christmas Day. But anyway, okay, so what you do is, if you have any questions, or the survey, anyway, you put your phone, your little scanning thing on here, and all the questions come up. It's really cool. Yeah. So I'm gonna put this back. If you want to do it while you're here, that's great. If you have a scanner thing. Oh, you can still do it with my phone. Yeah. I think. I don't know if you can do it twice. Can you do it twice from the same phone? No? Oh. So you just have to put the scan app on your phone, and, yeah, and scream out no. You think I'm just a little, you know what, I talked to Jean yesterday about this, and I said, is this an appropriate church topic? And yes, it is, because we're promoting families being together, and families having the opportunity to stay together and celebrate together, and those holidays have been always the Christian time for us to get together. And, yeah. So, I don't know if you agree with me, or, but anyway, just do it. Studio tour, pamphlets, do you have them with you?
I have a few, yes.
You have a few? Yeah. So that's next Saturday.
And Sunday.
And Sunday, and Jean and Dorothy are on the tour. And as we were discussing how you should serve tea and scones out of your place. If people drive all that way out,
My house would do that.
pardon me, I will.
Good.
I would do that for you.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll look forward to that.
Okay. And what time does it begin?
10 till 4.
10 till 4. Okay. Okay.
How are you going to transplant yourself to places on Sunday?
Maybe I just won't come here. Yeah, sorry.
Maybe Jim will supply for you for a couple hours.
Jim. That's funny. I know you think it's funny too. There are some Christmas cactuses, little ones, out in the narthex there. They're from Eileen Fisher. They're from her mother, Marie. And that is they're all from a very, very, very old Christmas cactus. And I don't know what she did. Maybe she dropped it or something. But anyway, she had a whole bunch the other day at the Hort Society for us. So please take them. I'm sure she would be very pleased if you, yeah, if you enjoy it. We welcome Pam back.
Yes.
So we need to book you in to talk about it Sunday. Yes, that would be wonderful. Have you recovered?
Yes.
Yes. So, okay, that's good. Okay, but we will talk, yeah. And there's a thank you here from the Anglican Mission Service Committee. Hello to St. Paul's on behalf of the Anglican Mission Service Committee, Board of Director. Many thanks for your generous donations to help with our missions in Madagascar. As you know, our own missionary Pam Stickney is there in this far-flung country, continuing the work that Mary Sherwood did for us for so many years. So thank you for helping to feed, clothe, and educate all the little ones in, how do you say the word?
Candy, Carmen, Zena.
Okay, that place. Yes. Don't sound like we want to Canada. So, yes, so we are glad we can do that. Is there anything? Oh, yes, okay. So George gave us a good news story for this week. And if anybody else can come up with a good news story, please pass it on. The one he saw was there's a successful best practice of intergenerational coexistence in the Netherlands, and it has also expanded to some other countries. The Humanitas nursing home hosts university students for free in exchange for volunteering with the elderly people living in the care home. At Humanitas, there are 160 residents over 85 who have as neighbors 6 university students in their 20s. In exchange for 30 hours per month of volunteering with the people of the nursing home, these young people get vacant rooms for free. And the students can come and go as they please, and the only rule is that they must not be a nuisance to the residents. So that's a good news story. And sounds like it's a possibility anyway. It's getting so messy. Okay, Randy, you're up.
All right, so last week you might remember, you're right, Deb got all the answers. So this week the question is, where in the Bible is the Lord's Prayer from?
New Testament.
Okay, myself, 6, 9 to 13. But it also shows up in sort of a more abbreviated form in Luke 11, 2 to 4. Lord's Prayer.
I've always had a beef with that.
Why is that?
Because the Lord's Prayer to me is the one before that. When he's praying. That's the Lord's Prayer. The one that he's praying, the one that he needs to pray. This is the other one. This is his handoff to us. But I don't know what we call it if it wasn't the Lord's Prayer. What could we, have a look at what Jesus prays about before that. Yeah. Okay, is that all? Is there anything else happening? What?
There were a couple birthdays yesterday, I think.
Okay.
Well, Wendy was one, and I think Randy has a birthday yesterday.
Randy and Wendy.
And I had one
Oh,
on the,
that's-
and I had one on the
Happy birthday!
Kathy, did you
11th. Mine
say
was on the 11th,
Here's another one.
on the 11th? Okay.
yeah.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
Happy birthday to
And then, yeah,
Oh,
couldn't be done.
okay. So, and Tom passed away. Tom Quinn. Yeah.
Oh. Really? Oh.
And that's so sad. He was such a gentleman. Yeah. And it's funny. It's not funny, but it's funny. So I have this tape. I was listening to a sermon by John Bell from Scotland. And he talks about someone who died. And I think, it was his, let's say it was his mother's husband. And, no it wasn't, it was a friend's husband. And somebody said to the lady, I remember him well. And they said, well, how did you remember him? And he said, I passed his butcher shop every day. And I remember him in his hat and his apron, blood all over it. He says, I remembered him well. And John Bell said his wife had difficulty remembering him. Not because she'd forgotten about him, but because there were so many memories that crowded her mind. And so it's hard for her to focus in sometimes on just one. But this person felt that she knew him well because of one memory. And I did not know Tom Quinn well. I have his memory of his picking up a dinner and his thank you card, written with cursive writing that was just phenomenal. So that's how I remember him. You have other memories. Yes. Yeah. So God, there are days that we are very like your disciples. We struggle with our egos that want us to recognize how important we are to you and the creation of your community in this world. And we want to enter easily into your other kingdom, where we will be rewarded greatly and praised greatly for our accomplishments. We often seem to be so much like those early disciples. We want you to know how hard we work. And we want you to pass over our failures as though they were inconsequential. But Jesus straightens us out. He said that we should be ready for service rather than adulation. So help us to reach out to others, not with thought of importance or gain, but in love and compassion, truly caring for each one we meet. When we have done this, we will have truly given our hearts and our service to you, reflected your light to those in need. given the stories in the news and those we hear around town, we often feel helpless without the resources to change things near or far. Or perhaps we can't find the desire, enthusiasm, the commitment to actively walk in your son's footsteps. We're tired, feel the problems are beyond our scope, our abilities. And yet we can still give support where and when it is needed through our encouragement to others who have the enthusiasm for projects that may change the lives of others for the better. We join with others, family, friends, and even strangers in bringing to you our personal concerns and our sources of pleasure. Help as you are able to cure the broken spirits and bodies. Rejoice with us in gratitude for blessings received. These things we bring to you confident of your unconditional love for us all. Amen. Today is the beginning of fall. It happened at 8:44 this morning.
Yes. Nice.
It is often the most favorite of seasons. It has a certain calmness, I think, about it, and beauty, even though the decay is beginning. So let us prepare ourselves for it in song. We're going to sing these words to the tune of Great is Thy Faithfulness. And open our minds. And may the living Spirit of God give us life, life to the fullest.
Oh
of those on the internet, somewhere out there in that world. Shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. Oh, isn't that nice? That was Les, honestly, these people that I don't know, this is Les Brown. Who is Les Brown? I only know Les Brown in the Band of Renown. That's but
Motivational
don't think,
speaker.
who?
Motivational speaker.
Everyone is a moon and has a dark side, which they never show to anybody. That's Mark Twain. Yeah. And don't tell me the sky is the limit when there are footprints on the moon. Yeah. Things to think about when you're coming in. So I will place this at the back if you have a scanner on your phone.